Have you ever stood in front of a mirror and thought, "I'm a good person"? I have. We all have. But what if I told you that this very belief, this comforting self-narrative, is more illusion than fact? What if the mirror you look into every day doesn't reflect who you are, but who you wish you were? And what if I could prove it to you not with accusations, but with thought experiments rigorous, logical, ancient, and modern that reveal how deeply flawed our moral self-perception truly is? Stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you may not see yourself the same way again, and that might be the beginning of something far more honest than being good. Let's begin with a question. Would you kill one innocent person if it meant saving 5 strangers? If your answer is yes, congratulations. You've just walked into the infamous trolley problem, a thought experiment that's been tormenting moral philosophers for decades. But let me ask you this, would you push that person with your own hands? Suddenly, the calculus changes. Why? The numbers haven't. The outcome hasn't. Yet your willingness to act, your moral instinct has shifted. Why? Because we're not logical beings with emotions. We're emotional beings who sometimes try to be logical. And that's the first lie we tell ourselves, that we're consistent, that we judge right and wrong based on reason. But the truth is far messier. Ask yourself, have you ever judged someone for cheating while excusing your own lies? Have you ever condemned greed while hoarding more than you need? We all have. And we do it because of something philosophers call motivated reasoning, our mind's ability to rationalize our actions so we can still feel like the hero of our own story. Let me put it another way, you might be the villain in someone else's story right now and not even know it. Think of the ring of Gyges from Plato's Republic, a ring that makes you invisible. Plato asks, if no one could see your actions, would you still act morally? Or would you steal, lie, hurt, even kill, because you'd know you'd never be caught? Most people say, of course, I'd still do the right thing, but behavior in the real world suggests otherwise. We cheat on our taxes, lie to our partners, take credit for others' work, all while maintaining the self-image of a good person. Why? Why?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Because deep down we don't want to be moral. We want to be seen as moral. There's a difference. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. There's a cognitive bias known as the self-serving bias. It means we attribute our successes to our character, but our failures to circumstances. If I succeed, it's because I'm talented. If I fail, it's because the system was rigged. But when someone else fails, they didn't try hard enough. Sound familiar? Now zoom out. Imagine a world full of people who all think they're good, reasonable, fair, and yet the world is still full of cruelty, injustice, and selfishness. That's not a coincidence. That's the result of billions of people underestimating their own capacity for harm. Let me hit you with a bombshell. You've probably done more harm than you realize. Not because you're evil, but because harm is often invisible to us. The words we say that wound someone for life. The opportunities we take that others needed more. The silence we maintain in the face of injustice. Would you steal a loaf of bread to feed your starving child? Many say yes, but now ask, would you steal luxury sneakers for your child's birthday? Most say no, but here's the twist. In both cases, you're taking what isn't yours. So what changed? Your justification. We're all masters of moral justification. We create stories that make us feel righteous in our choices. But morality isn't about how you feel, it's about what's true, what's just, what's consistent. And this is where most of us fall. You see, we live in a world that teaches us to signal virtue more than to practice it. Social media is flooded with people who speak of justice, love, kindness while simultaneously tearing others down, ignoring real suffering, and chasing dopamine hits of outrage. And we reward them. We give them likes, follows, clout. Are we really moral people? Or are we just good at marketing our morality? Here's a chilling question. If you couldn't tell anyone about your good deeds, would you still do them? This is why ancient philosophers, like the Stoics, emphasized virtue in silence. They believed true morality isn't proven by applause, it's proven by solitude. Who are you when no one's watching? When there's no reward, no recognition? Let's look at moral luck, another thought experiment. Imagine two drunk drivers. Both make the same decision. One gets home safely. The other hits and kills a pedestrian. Who is worse? Intuitively, we assign more blame to the second driver. But morally, both made the same choice. The difference was luck. And yet, our justice systems and our psyches punish outcomes more than intentions. This reveals another uncomfortable truth. We don't judge morality fairly even in ourselves. So, why does this matter? Because if we want to live in a better world, we have to start by telling ourselves the truth about who we are. Not the curated version, not the Instagram bio, but the real version. The one that cuts through our narratives and asks, what have I done for others that cost me something? What harm have I tolerated because it was convenient? How often do we choose comfort over courage? How often do we avoid hard conversations because they make us uncomfortable, even when others are suffering? We often think evil is loud, monstrous, obvious. But most evil in the world is subtle. It's neglect, it's indifference, it's the shrug, the silence, the "it's not my problem." Ask yourself, how many times have I walked past suffering because it was easier not to care? This is not about guilt, it's about awakening. Because the moment we realize we're not as good as we think, we gain the power to become better. That's the paradox. The truly moral person is not the one who believes they're good. It's the one who constantly questions their own goodness. You've heard of imposter syndrome, the fear of being exposed as a fraud. But what if most of us suffer from the opposite? What if we have moral delusion syndrome, the unshakable belief that we're better than we are? And the cure isn't shame. It's radical self-honesty. You spoke like you, gave like you, judged like you. What kind of world would we live in? Would it be more just, more compassionate? Or would it be filled with polite indifference, convenient excuses, and shallow virtue? But the world is not changed by people who think they're good. It's changed by people who ask, where am I falling short? And have the courage to answer. Let's begin with a simple question that might feel like a punch to the gut. Do you know who made your shirt? Not the brand, the person. It's what their name is, what their working conditions are, if they're paid enough to eat, or if they live in fear of being fired for needing a bathroom break. Odds are, you don't. And that's not your fault, at least. Not entirely. Because the structures we live in today are designed like moral fog machines. They obscure, they distance, they hide. The harm we cause isn't visible, it's abstracted, outsourced to invisible hands across oceans, behind algorithms, buried in supply chains. And in that fog, we continue to tell ourselves what we've always told ourselves: I'm a good person. But how good can we truly be when we don't even know the consequences of our daily choices? This is where philosophy must collide with modern life. In the past, being moral was directly tied to your immediate community, how you treated your neighbor, your family, the people you saw every day. But now, your moral footprint stretches far beyond what your eyes can see. You could be funding forced labor with your wallet, destroying ecosystems with your clicks, or perpetuating injustice with your silence, all without meaning to. And yet, despite all this complexity, we still rely on the same outdated intuition: if I don't feel bad, I must not be doing bad. But what if your conscience isn't broken, just blind? Let's consider the thought experiment of the expanding circle, proposed by philosopher Peter Singer. Imagine your moral concern as a circle. At the center is you, then your family, then your friends, then your community. As the circle expands, it includes strangers, animals, even future generations. The question is, how far does your circle go? Most of us stop at the edges of convenience. We care about others, but only when it doesn't cost too much, when it doesn't disrupt our habits, when it doesn't make us uncomfortable. But morality, if it's to mean anything, must stretch beyond our comforts. Because the world doesn't need more people who are kind when it's easy, it needs people who are just when it's hard. Now, think about this. When you buy a product, say, a $10 shirt, do you ever ask how that shirt was made so cheap? What corners had to be cut? What libs had to be squeezed? What environmental damage was quietly buried to bring that product to your doorstep in 2 days? There's a philosophical term for this: structural ignorance. It means that the very systems we depend on are structured to make us ignorant of our own impact. It's not that we choose to be blind, it's that the architecture of modern life makes blindness the default. And unless we actively resist it, we remain trapped in an illusion of harmlessness. But here's the problem: resisting that blindness comes at a cost. It means slowing down in a world that rewards speed. It means asking uncomfortable questions in a culture that worships comfort. It means accepting that your moral life is not just about what you intend, but about what you enable. And that's a terrifying thought. Because when you start pulling that thread, you realize just how entangled you are in systems of harm. The food you eat, the tech you use, the entertainment you enjoy, it's all connected. And the more you learn, the more you see. And once you see, you can't unsee. Let me give you an example. You're scrolling through social media, watching a video that went viral. It's funny, it's addicting, and it was filmed in a place where people are being exploited. The creator didn't mention it. The algorithm didn't care. You didn't know. But you watched it, enjoyed it, and shared it. Are you responsible? And if so, how responsible? These are the questions that modern ethics must grapple with. Because unlike the past, where moral responsibility was tied to proximity, today's world demands moral imagination. You have to care about people you'll never meet. You have to feel connected to lives you'll never touch. And that is not something we're wired to do automatically. It takes work, it takes training, It takes philosophy. Let's return to Singer. He proposed another chilling thought experiment. Imagine you're walking past a shallow pond and you see a child drowning. But would you save them, even if it meant ruining your $500 shoes? Well, of course you would. Almost everyone says yes. But Singer points out that every day children die from preventable causes: lack of food, clean water, medicine, and yet we don't sacrifice our luxuries to save them. Why? Because they're far away, because we don't see them, because their suffering is abstract. But morally, what's the difference? The child in the pond and the child across the world are both dying. Your ability to help is real in both cases. So why do we act in one case and not the other? The answer is sobering. Empathy is biased. It favors the near, the familiar, the visible. But justice doesn't care about proximity. Justice asks, who needs help? Not how close are they to you. And once you understand this, you begin to see how fragile your moral instincts really are. They evolved for small tribes, not global networks. They're wired for survival, not ethics. And this means that if we want to be good in the modern world, we can't just feel, we have to think. We have to reason. We have to choose to extend our concern beyond what comes naturally. Ask yourself, what if the worst thing you ever did was something you didn't even know you were doing? That's not a riddle, that's the reality for millions of us. We participate in injustice not through malice, but through inertia, through inattention, through the comforting lie that if I didn't mean to do harm, then I didn't. But intent is not the whole story, and often, not even most of it. Impact matters. And facing the truth about your impact is the beginning of real ethical maturity. But here's the good news: you don't have to be perfect. You just have to care enough to try. You don't have to solve every problem. But you do have to stop pretending that just being nice is enough. Morality isn't just about smiling and being polite. It's about where your money goes, where your attention goes, where your silence goes. It's about the systems you support and the ones you challenge. And that means asking hard questions like, what am I funding? Who am I ignoring? What am I pretending not to know? And yes, you'll feel overwhelmed. You'll feel powerless. But that's part of the process. Because moral clarity doesn't come from certainty, it comes from discomfort, from wrestling with your complicity, from refusing to look away. The goal is not to feel good about yourself, but the goal is to do good, even when it doesn't feel good, especially when it doesn't feel good. Let me leave you with a final thought experiment. Imagine a future where your grandchildren are studying you. They're reading about the world you lived in, the climate crisis, the wealth inequality, the exploitation, and they come across your name. What will they say? Will they say you tried, that you questioned, that you resisted? Or will they say you looked the other way? That's not just a future scenario. It's happening now. You are writing your moral legacy every day, with every choice. And the more you understand how unseen your impact is, the more you'll realize you can't afford to let convenience define your conscience.